Ever wonder how people dated before Tinder? Welcome to Regency England, where courting involved fancy balls, love letters, and matchmaking moms who were more invested in your love life than you were. If you couldn't dance, you were screwed. Showing too much ankle? Scandalous. So, grab your bonnets and tailcoats and join me on a journey to a time when flirting meant compliments about handwriting and trying not to trip over your own feet. Welcome to the wonderfully bizarre world of Regency courtship, where a misplaced hair ribbon could spell social ruin and the wrong kind of curtsy might land you with the wrong kind of husband. The London season, a social whirlwind. The year is 1811. King George III has just been declared unfit to rule, and his son, the Prince of Wales, steps in as regent. But for young ladies and gentlemen of marriageable age, a different kind of reign begins. The London season. From January to June, England's upper crust descends upon London. Carriages clog the streets. Townhouses in Mayfair and St. James's, shuttered for months, burst to life. The season has arrived, and with it, a frenzy of social events designed for one purpose: matchmaking. For debutantes, this is their moment. At 17 or 18, they're presented at court, a tradition dating back to the 1780s. The ritual is precise: wear a white dress, sport ostrich feathers in your hair, and master the art of walking backwards while curtsying. One wrong move, and you might end up sprawled at the feet of the Prince Regent. Talk about a first impression. But the real action happens at the balls. Almack's Assembly Rooms, founded in 1765, reigns supreme. Every Wednesday, the cream of society gathers here. The guest list is ruthlessly curated by a group of formidable ladies known as the patronesses. Even the Duke of Wellington once got turned away for wearing trousers instead of knee breeches. Fashion faux pas? Social suicide. Inside, it's a battlefield of fans, glances, and carefully choreographed dances. A ladies' dance card fills up fast. Popular belles might secure 10 to 12 dances per night. The less fortunate? They're left to wilt by the walls, praying for a last-minute invitation to the dance floor. For gentlemen, the season is equally crucial. Many rack up debts at gambling hells like White's or Brooks's, hoping to pad their fortunes and become more attractive prospects. Others fret over their appearance, spending hours perfecting their cravat knots. As weeks pass, gossip flies. Who's been seen with whom? Whose family has skeletons in their closet? The Morning Post and other scandal sheets keep score, ensuring no juicy detail goes unreported. And so the game begins. Stakes are high, reputations hang in the balance, and somewhere amid the chaos of the London season, love occasionally blossoms. Welcome to courtship, Regency style. First impressions, balls and assemblies. The grand ballroom of Almack's buzzes with excitement. Ladies in empire waist gowns and gentlemen in tailcoats eye each other nervously. The music starts, and the real dance begins. Introductions are an art form. A gentleman must be properly presented to a lady by a mutual acquaintance. No self-introductions allowed. That's far too forward. Once introduced, a gentleman might request a dance, but not more than two with the same partner. Any more, and tongues start wagging. The most popular dance is the country dance, with couples facing each other in long lines. It's a perfect opportunity for conversation, albeit under the watchful eyes of chaperones. In 1815, the waltz makes its debut at Almack's, scandalizing many. Imagine the shock: a man's hand on a lady's waist. Some creative souls resort to desperate measures. In 1814, a young lady pretends to faint, hoping a dashing gentleman will catch her. Instead, she knocks over a footman carrying a tray of negus, creating a sticky mess and a lifetime of embarrassment. The language of fans: flirting without words. In the crowded ballrooms of Regency England, where every word is overheard and every glance noticed, the ladies needed a secret weapon. Enter the fan, a seemingly innocent accessory that doubled as a covert communication device. The fan's history as a flirting tool dates back to 16th century Italy, but the Regency era saw it reach new heights of complexity. A whole vocabulary developed around fan movements. In 1797, Charles Francis Bedini published the phonology, or ladies' conversation fan, which codified many of these signals. Carrying the fan in the right hand in front of the face? Follow me. Fanning slowly? I'm married. Fanning quickly? I'm engaged. Twirling the fan in the left hand? We're being watched. The possibilities were endless and often confusing. In 1814, at a ball in Brighton, Lady Georgiana Lennox attempted to signal her interest in a young officer using her fan. She meant to say, "I wish to speak with you," but accidentally signaled, "Go away, I despise you." The poor man left the ball heartbroken, and Lady Georgiana spent the next 3 seasons trying to undo the damage. Fans weren't just for communication. They were fashion statements too. In 1813, the Prince Regent commissioned a fan for his daughter, Princess Charlotte, that cost a staggering 150 guineas. Made of gold and adorned with precious stones, it was more a work of art than a practical accessory. For most ladies, however, fans were tools of the trade. They provided a convenient shield for whispered conversations, a way to hide blushes, and even a means of punishment. In 1816, the sharp-tongued Lady Jersey reportedly wrapped an overly presumptuous suitor's knuckles with her fan, causing quite a stir at Almack's. Men weren't immune to fan mishaps either. In 1812, Lord Byron, attending a ball shortly after the publication of Childe Harold's Pilgrimage, found himself mobbed by fan-wielding admirers. He later wrote to a friend, "I have been scratched to death by quills of steel and pelted with fans of ivory." Chaperoned walks, romance in the park. As the London season heated up, so did the weather. By late spring, the fashionable set flocked to Hyde Park for fresh air, social encounters, and closely supervised courtship. These outings were far from casual strolls. They were carefully orchestrated affairs governed by strict rules of etiquette. The most popular time for these walks was between 4:30 and 7 p.m. In 1814, a record 769 carriages were counted in a single hour, circling the park's famous ring. On foot, young ladies and gentlemen promenaded along Rotten Row, a wide dirt track stretching nearly a mile and a half. Chaperones were non-negotiable. Unmarried ladies never walked alone with gentlemen. Mothers, aunts, or married sisters hovered nearby, eagle-eyed and ever vigilant. In 1812, Mrs. Drummond Burrell famously employed an ear trumpet during these walks, much to the dismay of her charges, who found their whispered flirtations suddenly audible. Conversation during these walks was an art form. Topics ranged from the weather to the latest on deets, always keeping things light and witty. In 1816, a young William Lamb, later Lord Melbourne, reportedly won Lady Caroline Ponsonby's heart during a Hyde Park stroll by reciting Byron's poetry from memory. Not all walks went smoothly. In 1815, a sudden downpour sent the tons scurrying for shelter. The crush of soggy silks and muddied boots in the few available pavilions led to several unintended but fortuitous meetings, and at least 3 engagements. Letters and love notes, the art of correspondence. In an age before telephones and instant messaging, letters were the lifeblood of Regency courtship. Penning the perfect missive was a skill honed through years of practice and countless drafts tossed into the fire. The postal system, reformed by John Palmer in 1784, allowed for relatively swift communication. By 1812, a letter posted in London could reach Bath in just 16 hours. This speed, however, only heightened the anxiety of waiting for a reply. Writing materials were crucial. The finest letters were penned on high-quality paper from stationers like Dobbs of the Strand. Quills, typically goose feathers, required constant sharpening. In 1813, steel pen nibs appeared, but many romantics considered them too impersonal for love letters. Gentlemen often began their day by writing letters at their club. Whites, Brookses, and Boodles all provided writing rooms. In 1814, Beau Brummel reportedly spent 3 hours composing a single paragraph to a potential sweetheart, much to the amusement of his fellow club members. Ladies typically wrote at their escritoires, often in the morning, while still in their dressing gowns. Jane Austen, writing to her sister Cassandra in 1813, described this ritual. "I am now alone in the library, mistress of all I survey." The content of these letters ranged from witty banter to passionate declarations. However, propriety was paramount. In 1815, Lord Byron scandalized society with his overtly sensual letters to Lady Caroline Lamb, leading to a very public and messy affair. Codes and ciphers were popular among the more daring correspondents. In 1816, a love letter from Percy Bysshe Shelley to Mary Godwin, later Mary Shelley, was written entirely in a substitution cipher, much to the frustration of Mary's disapproving father. Delivery of these precious missives was a delicate matter. Servants were often enlisted, though this came with risks. In 1814, a footman's mistake led to a love letter from Mr. Wickham being delivered to Mr. Darcy instead of Elizabeth Bennet, causing no small amount of consternation in Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. The arrival of a letter was an event. In 1817, Fanny Burney described the violent palpitations she experienced upon receiving a letter from her husband while they were separated. Such reactions were common, as these letters often held the key to one's romantic future. Preserving these tokens of affection became an art in itself. Scented sachets, locked boxes, and even hidden compartments in furniture were employed to keep precious correspondence safe from prying eyes and noses. Meeting the family, navigating potential in-laws. Once a courtship progressed beyond furtive glances and coded fan messages, the next hurdle loomed: meeting the family. This pivotal moment could make or break a potential match, and it was approached with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The first meeting typically occurred in a formal setting, often during a dinner party or afternoon tea. In 1814, the Bennet household in Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice hosted Mr. Bingley for just such an occasion, a scene inspired by countless real-life encounters. Preparation for these meetings was intense. Gentlemen polished their conversational skills and brushed up on current events. Ladies received coaching on proper topics and refined their accomplishments. In 1813, a young woman reportedly practiced the pianoforte for 6 hours daily for a week before her suitor's first visit to her family home. Family dynamics played a crucial role. The formidable matriarch was a common fixture in Regency households. Lady Catherine de Bourgh in Pride and Prejudice was based on real-life figures like Lady Holland, known for her sharp tongue and exacting standards for potential in-laws. Fathers, while often portrayed as aloof in literature, were key decision-makers. Their approval was essential, particularly regarding financial matters. In 1815, the Duke of Richmond famously rejected a suitor for his daughter on the grounds that the young man's estate yielded £500 less per annum than he claimed. Siblings could be allies or obstacles. In 1816, Lord Byron's half-sister Augusta Lee played a significant role in vetting potential matches for the poet, much to his chagrin. Family eccentricities often came to the fore during these encounters. The Regency era was rife with colorful characters. In 1814, one unfortunate gentleman was subjected to a 3-hour lecture on the breeding habits of pigeons by his potential father-in-law, a passionate ornithologist. For those navigating the complexities of blended families, additional challenges arose. Stepmothers, in particular, could wield significant influence. In 1817, Maria Edgeworth's novel, Harrington, explored these dynamics, reflecting the real-life experiences of many Regency couples. As the courtship progressed, these family interactions became more frequent and less formal. By the time a proposal was on the horizon, a gentleman was expected to be on familiar terms with his potential in-laws, for better or worse. Romantic gestures, from poetry to locks of hair. In the Regency era, romantic gestures were a delicate balance of passion and propriety. Suitors had to express their affection without overstepping the strict social boundaries of the time. Poetry was a popular medium for romantic expression. Lord Byron's She Walks in Beauty, penned in 1814, set a high bar for aspiring poets. Not everyone could match Byron's eloquence, though. In 1815, one hopeful suitor's attempt at verse was so atrocious that his intended reportedly burst into laughter upon reading it, effectively ending the courtship. Flowers played a significant role in romantic communication. The language of flowers, or floriography, reached its peak during this period. A carefully composed bouquet could convey complex messages. Red roses for love, forget-me-nots for true love, and gardenias for secret love were popular choices. Miniature portraits were prized tokens of affection. These small paintings, often worn as lockets or brooches, allowed lovers to keep their beloved's image close. In 1812, the Prince Regent commissioned a miniature of himself for his mistress, Mrs. Fitzherbert, at the staggering cost of 100 guineas. Perhaps the most intimate gift was a lock of hair. This practice, while seemingly odd to modern sensibilities, was deeply romantic to Regency-era couples. Hair was woven into intricate designs, incorporated into jewelry, or simply kept in a special box. In 1813, Jane Austen's brother Charles sent a lock of his hair to his fiancée Fanny Palmer, a gesture that was considered highly romantic. Music was another avenue for romantic expression. Gentlemen might compose songs for their beloveds, or dedicate performances to them at musical evenings. In 1816, the young Franz Schubert composed Erlkönig, inspired by his unrequited love for Therese Grubb, setting a new standard for romantic musical gestures. Books were also popular gifts, often with personal inscriptions or carefully selected passages marked. In 1811, a copy of Sense and Sensibility, gifted by a gentleman to his sweetheart, sold out the first print run in London, sparking a trend of gifting novels as romantic tokens. Not all gestures were well received. In 1817, one overzealous admirer attempted to serenade his beloved beneath her window, only to be doused with water by her unamused father. Proposals and permissions, sealing the deal. The art of the marriage proposal in Regency England was a delicate dance of tradition, etiquette, and nerve. For many couples, it was the culmination of months, if not years, of careful courtship. The end of the London season often saw a flurry of proposals as couples who had spent months getting to know each other finally took the plunge. In 1814, a record 47 engagements were announced in the last week of June alone. Location mattered. While some chose grand gestures in public settings, most proposals were private affairs, Gardens were popular spots, offering both romance and the illusion of privacy. In 1813, the maze at Hampton Court witnessed no fewer than 5 proposals, earning it the nickname the Labyrinth of Love. The actual proposal often followed a script. Gentlemen were expected to declare their love, express their intentions, and formally ask for the lady's hand. In 1815, one nervous suitor reportedly rehearsed his proposal 37 times before delivering it, only to forget every word when the moment arrived. A lady's response was equally scripted. Immediate acceptance was considered unseemly. A period of consideration, even if brief, was expected. In 1816, one impatient gentleman mistook his beloved's momentary silence for rejection and fled the scene, leading to a comedic chase through a country estate to clear up the misunderstanding. Once the lady accepted, the next step was seeking her father's permission. This was not a mere formality. In 1812, Jane Austen's niece Anna had her engagement to Benjamin Lefroy temporarily broken off when her father withheld his consent, citing the couple's youth. For those lacking courage to propose in person, letter writing was an acceptable alternative. However, this method had its risks. In 1817, one unfortunate gentleman's proposal letter was accidentally delivered to his intended's married sister, causing a scandal that took months to die down. Engagement rings, while not as ubiquitous as they would become in later eras, were gaining popularity. The snake ring, symbolizing eternal love, was fashionable. In 1839, Prince Albert would set a new trend by giving Queen Victoria a serpent engagement ring. The length of engagements varied. Some couples married within weeks, while others waited years. In 1816, Jane Austen's novel Persuasion explored the consequences of a long engagement, reflecting the real-life experiences of many couples of the era. Engagement period, planning for the future. Once the proposal was accepted and parental permission secured, couples entered a new phase of their relationship, balancing increased intimacy with persistent societal constraints. Announcing the engagement was the first order of business. In 1814, the Morning Post published 217 engagement announcements, each carefully worded to reflect the social standing of the families involved. For the ton, a notice in the paper was essential. In 1815, one couple's failure to announce their engagement properly led to a week of frenzied speculation in London drawing rooms. During this time, engaged couples were granted more freedom in their interactions. They could correspond without chaperones and were often allowed to be alone together for short periods. However, physical intimacy remained strictly limited. In 1816, one overzealous couple was caught kissing in the library during a house party, resulting in a hasty wedding and much gossip. Wedding planning was primarily the domain of the bride and her female relatives. Trousseaux were assembled, containing everything a bride would need for her new life. In 1814, Lady Caroline Lamb's trousseau reportedly contained 60-day dresses, 30 evening gowns, and 200 pairs of gloves, reflecting the extravagance of the era. Choosing a wedding date often involved consulting an almanac. Certain days were considered luckier than others. May was traditionally avoided, as captured in the rhyme, "Marry in May, rue the day." In 1812, there were only 3 aristocratic weddings in May, compared to 27 in June. The engagement period was also a time for the couple to discuss their future. Living arrangements, household management, and even family planning were topics that needed addressing. In 1815, Maria Edgeworth wrote to a friend about the delicate negotiations surrounding her sister's engagement, hinting at the complex discussions that took place behind closed doors. As the wedding day approached, final preparations intensified. Marriage licenses were obtained, wedding clothes were finished, and guest lists were finalized. In 1817, the wedding breakfast for the Earl of Liverpool's daughter involved 12 cooks working for 3 days straight, highlighting the elaborate nature of aristocratic weddings. Wedding bells, the culmination of courtship. The wedding day in Regency England marked the grand finale of the courtship process, a celebration steeped in tradition and social expectations. From dawn to dusk, every moment was choreographed to reflect the couple's status and the significance of the occasion. Timing was crucial. Most weddings took place in the morning, typically before noon. In 1813, 82% of aristocratic weddings were held between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. This timing allowed for a wedding breakfast to follow, and for the couple to begin their journey to their honeymoon destination before nightfall. The ceremony itself was often a relatively quick affair. The Book of Common Prayer provided the script, with the exchange of rings and vows taking mere minutes. In 1815, the wedding of the Duke of Gloucester to Princess Mary lasted only 16 minutes from start to finish, setting a record for brevity among royal nuptials. Brides typically wore their best dress, which wasn't necessarily white, Colored wedding gowns were common, with blue being a popular choice symbolizing purity. It wasn't until Queen Victoria's wedding in 1840 that white became the standard. In 1816, Jane Austen described her niece Anna's wedding dress as a pretty light silk with a full white muslin petticoat and a white muslin spencer with a train of the same. Grooms had it easier, often wearing their best suit, or, if they were military men, their uniforms. In 1814, the Duke of Wellington famously married Kitty Pakenham, wearing his full dress uniform, complete with all his medals. The guest list was a carefully curated affair. For the aristocracy, weddings were often large, public events. In 1812, the wedding of Lord Byron's cousin attracted over 300 guests, causing a traffic jam in Mayfair. For the middle classes, more intimate gatherings were the norm. Following the ceremony, the wedding breakfast was the main event. Despite its name, this was often a lavish luncheon. In 1817, the wedding breakfast for Lady Charlotte Greville included 64 dishes, ranging from turtle soup to a whole roast peacock. Wedding cakes were already a tradition, though not quite as we know them today. They were often dense fruitcakes, symbolizing fertility and prosperity. In 1813, Princess Charlotte's wedding cake reportedly weighed 300 pounds and stood over 9 feet tall. After the festivities, the couple would depart for their honeymoon, often amid a shower of rice or rose petals. Travel was limited by the technology of the day, so many couples opted for nearby country estates. In 1814, one adventurous couple caused a stir by taking a hot air balloon from London to Brighton for their honeymoon. Not all weddings went smoothly. In 1816, a groom famously forgot the ring and had to borrow one from a guest. In another incident in 1815, a bride's elaborate hairstyle caught fire from a candle during the ceremony, leading to a hasty dousing and a singed veil. As the sun set on the wedding day, the newly married couple embarked on their life together, leaving behind the world of courtship and entering the equally complex realm of Regency marriage.